Hi Geeks and Gamers, welcome to Archives Media. E3 just ended and we got some big insights on the future of Sony and the PS4. And so far, the life of the PlayStation 4 is looking pretty good. We got some pretty big announcements, or at least updates on games that we were already excited about. That being said, let's look at the best new games coming out on the PS4, either later this year, next year, or still to be announced. Let's get into it. Number 5, Days Gone. Days Gone is an upcoming action zombie game coming exclusively to the PS4. We saw a lot of it at E3 2016 and E3 2017, and while we didn't see as much this year at E3 2018, at the very least, this game looks pretty unique. The game follows Deacon St John, who is a bounty hunter / former outlaw that survives in the zombie apocalypse. There are some pretty cool things here, like infected animals and specialized zombies. That's an interesting take on the zombie genre overall, and has some things we haven't seen in zombie games. While the zombie genre is of course pretty overcrowded right now, this game's looking like it's going to do what a lot of the games have done best in the past, and also put its own twist on it to make it pretty unique. And with this game being more open world, there'll be a lot of extra elements like stealth and ranged weapons, giving players a lot more freedom. There's a day-night cycle with dynamic weather, which is pretty cool, and looks like this game is going to allow players to ride around in different vehicles like a motorcycle, which you can use to traverse the terrain. So it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic world game meets an open world feeling like Grand Theft Auto, and it looks pretty cool. Number 4 is Ghosts of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima actually looks pretty promising. The game is a third-person action-adventure game that exists again in an open world, and has a pretty big emphasis on stealth mechanics. The game takes place in the 13th century, and follows the last samurai in Japan. Since the team developing this game is known for making the infamous games, it's looking pretty promising so far. While the game has been in development for a while, and it looks like it isn't going to come out for a while still, it probably means that this game is going to be pretty polished, and with how ambitious this title looks, that's probably a really good thing. The fighting mechanics look absolutely amazing and borderline beautiful with just the general art style. It almost feels like watching a movie, but it's a game that we're actually going to play. And I think a lot of people are really going to like this game for the action sequences, but also the mix of cultural environments from this time, which isn't really something we've seen a lot in video games. So this is looking to be a pretty unique and cool title to have as an exclusive on the PS4. Number 3, The Last of Us Part 2. This is a title that a lot of PS4 fans are really excited about. Last of Us Part 2 brings us back into the world of this franchise, and right away, one of the most attractive features is the fluidity we've seen in the combat system. It looks really outstanding, and along with the graphics and art direction, this game overall looks pretty promising, as long as it lives up to what we see in the trailer. This game is going to feature multiplayer and single player, and the directors of the game are adding in a deeper story than the first title, making it more of an overall commentary on violence, which should be a pretty interesting approach, especially coming from the video game industry itself. Either way, this story-driven game looks like it's going to be putting all players on for a pretty good ride and fulfill a lot of different aspects players look for in these type of entertainment games. But either way, The Last of Us Part 1 was fantastic, and we're hopeful that this sequel is going to be just as good. Number 2, SpiderMan. SpiderMan is one of the few exclusives actually coming out this year, and it looks awesome. Interestingly enough, this Spider-Man is completely based off of its own universe and isn't tied to a comic or a movie specifically. And while it will of course be inspired by source material, there will be a lot of its own uniqueness, which is kind of appreciated here. It's doing its own thing completely, and it's not really something we've gotten to see from these type of games. The game will have a large cast of characters and decent amount of unique enemies, but most importantly, the gameplay looks the most promising. The game will let players swing around and fight, and it looks like the controls are going to be really tight and fluid, which is going to make the gameplay a lot more fun. And we just really like the idea of being able to swing around and then beat up bad guys at the same time. It's something that this game looks like it already has the proper chemistry down for it, and hopefully it's going to be a solid title. Besides the general environment just looking good, the environment in New York looks outstanding, and it looks like it's going to be a really cool place to explore. Oh, and Miles Morales is in the game too, which is pretty good for any people who are fans of the more extended Spider-Man stories and Spider-Verse type things. And number 1, Death Stranding. Hideo Kojima is back, finally, making a game, and this game looks really weird, but weird enough where it's inevitably going to be a unique experience. And since this is Kojima's first solo title after leaving Konami, this game most likely is going to be a masterpiece. And from what we've seen in the trailers, as unique as they have been, this game is definitely lining up to maybe fulfill these expectations. Norman Reedus signed on for the project, and the story looks beautiful and unique here. The game has a huge emphasis on the connection between life and death, which is kind of different, but the absurdity of this game is probably going to make this game really good, and Kojima has a good track record of making amazing titles. We haven't seen too much of this game just yet, but we are remaining very optimistic because it has the leadings to maybe be one of those games that make the top 100 best games of all times. Who knows? This game's likely to be one of those games to remember. But that's our list. What did you think of the games that are on this list? Did we miss some of the games that you're really excited for? If so, leave a comment down below with the game that you're the most excited for. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss a future episode. And we'll see you soon with a brand new video.